You're standing in a checkout line, holding something small, a coffee, a phone charger, lunch. Nothing extravagant. The cashier turns the little payment screen towards you. And before you tap your card, you do the thing. You flick your eyes down to your banking app just for a second to check. The number's not even small. There's a few $1,000s sitting there. And still, for a heartbeat, you feel it. That little clench. That quiet question that never fully goes away. Can I actually afford this? You're not broke. The number in front of you says so. And yet you feel broke. Right there, over a $5 coffee with thousands in the account. And here's the strange part. You feel it in good months and bad ones. You felt it after a raise. You'd probably feel it if your balance doubled. That low background hum of not quite enough seems to follow you around no matter what the number actually is. Most people spend their whole lives assuming there's only one cure for that feeling: more money. Earn more, and one day the clench will finally stop. But it doesn't. Plenty of people making very comfortable incomes feel exactly that same broke, just with bigger numbers attached. Because, and this is the whole point, the feeling of being broke is almost never about how much money you have. It's about how your money is arranged. It's a structure problem wearing the mask of a scarcity problem. And the wealthy, or really just the people who've quietly figured this out, use an almost embarrassingly boring trick to make that feeling disappear. It has nothing to do with investing, nothing to do with earning more, and nothing to do with discipline or willpower. It's about a bank account, or more precisely, about refusing to run your entire life out of just one. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly how it works, why it kills the feeling of broke even before you're rich, and how to set it up for yourself this week. To see what's actually going on, you have to understand why that one account lies to you. Because it does, constantly, and you've just learned to live with it. A professional kitchen before dinner service gives the cleanest picture. When an amateur cooks, everything happens in a mild panic. The pan is already hot, the oil starts to smoke, the onion isn't chopped, the spice is missing, and suddenly the whole meal feels like a small emergency. A professional kitchen does the exact opposite. Before the doors open, the chef does what's called mise en place, a French phrase that just means everything in its place. Every ingredient measured out, portioned, labeled, and waiting in its own container. So when the rush hits and 40 orders come in at once, there's no panic. The chef just reaches calmly for the container that's already prepped and ready. Their secret was never speed, it was the boring prep work nobody ever sees. Your money works exactly the same way. When every dollar you earn lands in one single checking account, that account becomes a messy pile. The rent money, the grocery money, the money already promised to a bill you half forgot about, and the tiny sliver that's actually yours to spend, it's all dumped in together, indistinguishable, one big number. And that number is a lie. It says $3,000, but maybe only 400 of that is truly free. And you have no way to see which is which. So every single time you go to spend, you're standing in front of the payment screen, reaching into the pile, with no real idea what's actually in there, bracing for the burn. That right there is where the feeling of broke comes from. It isn't the size of the number. It's the gap between the number you can see and the number you can actually trust. One account makes that gap as wide as it can possibly be, and the wider the gap, the more broke you feel, no matter how big the number on the screen happens to be. Now here's why earning more doesn't close that gap, and why the raise you might be counting on won't save you. When more money flows into that same single chaotic account, the pile just gets bigger, and so does your life. The bigger paycheck quietly arrives alongside a bigger apartment, a nicer car, a few more subscriptions, more spoken for dollars all swimming in the same undifferentiated soup. The gap between what you can see and what you can trust doesn't shrink. Very often it grows, because now there are even more hidden obligations tucked inside that one number. This is why you'll find people earning several times what you earn who feel every bit as broke as you do. People lying awake over money on a six-figure income because they never fixed the structure. They just poured more income into the same unlabeled account. Survey after survey keeps turning up the same strange finding. Enormous numbers of people, including plenty who earn very good money, describe themselves as living paycheck to paycheck, one surprise away from real trouble. And that doesn't happen because all of those people are bad with money or simply don't earn enough. It happens because they're all running their entire financial lives out of a single account that can't tell them the truth. They're all staring at one big balance and trying to guess which dollars are actually safe to spend. The panic is baked into the setup, not the salary. So if the problem was never the size of the number, then more of the number was never going to be the cure. The cure is to stop treating one bank balance like it can explain your whole life. To do for your money what a chef does before the doors open. And that, in its entirety, is the trick. Before we get to the setup, it's worth asking why almost none of us do this on our own. Because the reason isn't stupidity, it's that nearly everything is quietly set up to keep you living from one account. Start with the banks. When you open an account, you're handed one checking account by default, and that's the end of it. Maybe you get a savings account attached, maybe you don't. Nobody sits you down and explains that the single account is the very source of the chaos. The system's default is the problem, and defaults are powerful. Most people never change a default for anything, ever. Then there's the fact that splitting your money feels at first like more work and more complexity. One account seems simpler. It even feels like control to have everything in one place where you can see it. Except, as we've established, you can't actually see anything useful in that pile. You can see a big number, but not the truth hiding inside it. So what looks like simplicity is really the illusion of simplicity sitting right on top of real chaos. And there's a quieter, almost emotional reason. A single account with everything dumped in shows you the biggest possible number. And a big number feels good just for a second. It's a tiny hit of reassurance every time you glance at it. Splitting your money means your everyday account will start showing a smaller, honest number instead of a big, comforting lie. And a lot of people, without ever admitting it to themselves, would rather keep the comforting lie. The big fake number feels better, right up until the moment it betrays them at the checkout, or the car breaks down, and the broke feeling comes roaring straight back. We keep choosing the lie because nobody ever showed us that the honest version is where the peace actually lives. So let's build the honest version, the boring bank account trick step by step. And it's simpler than it sounds, because the entire point is that once it's set up, it runs itself. The core move is this: stop running your life out of one account and instead give every dollar a specific destination the moment it arrives. Think of your paycheck like a suitcase being unpacked into different drawers. Socks in one drawer, shirts in another, important documents somewhere safe. Nothing just dumped on the floor. At a minimum, you want a few separate accounts, each with one clear job, and most banks will let you open extra accounts for free in the app in a few minutes. The first account is your bills account. This one holds the money for your fixed, unavoidable obligations, rent or mortgage, utilities, insurance, subscriptions, loan payments, all the boring stuff that shows up for roughly the same amount every month. And here's the key: money goes into this account, your bills automatically come out of it, and you never ever spend from it directly. It isn't yours to touch. It's the landlord's money and the electric company's money just sitting in a waiting room until it's time for them to leave. The instant that money is separated off on its own, it stops pretending to be spendable, and the lie hiding in your main number immediately starts to shrink. The second account is the one that quietly changes your whole emotional life, your spending account. This is the only account you actually spend from, day to day. Groceries, coffee, dinner, the small stuff. And because the bills money has already been moved into its own account, the number in your spending account is finally completely honest. Every dollar sitting in there is truly genuinely free. You can spend it without a shred of guilt or dread, because there's no hidden rent payment buried underneath it, no forgotten utility bill waiting to jump out, no car insurance payment hiding in the same number. This is the account you glance at in the checkout line, and for the first time in your life, the number is telling you the truth. If it's healthy, spend freely. If it's low, ease off. Either way, no clench, no lie. The third account is your future money, savings, and your emergency fund. This is money that flows in and does not flow back out for anything short of a genuine emergency. It's your deep reserve, quietly growing in a separate place where your everyday spending brain can't casually reach in and raid it. This is not coffee money. This is not dinner money. This is the money that stands between you and a bad week becoming a financial crisis. And then there are the accounts most people have never even heard of, the ones that eliminate the single biggest source of the broke feeling. They're called sinking funds. These are small savings pots, either separate accounts or just labeled sections within one savings account, set aside for the expenses that aren't monthly but are absolutely definitely coming. The car repair, the holidays, the annual insurance premium, the birthdays, the new set of tires. Most people treat every one of these as a shocking surprise that blows up the whole month and triggers the broke panic. But not one of them is actually a surprise. You know the car will eventually need work. You know December arrives every single year. You know tires wear down. You know birthdays come back around. So a little money trickles automatically into each of these pots all year long, and when the $1,200 car bill lands, you don't flinch. You just pull it from the car pot that's been quietly filling for exactly this. The catastrophe becomes a non-event. And that right there is most of the broke feeling simply gone. Now, the piece that ties it all together and makes the whole thing effortless: automation. You do not want to be shuffling this money around by hand every month, relying on willpower and memory. That's exactly how a system like this falls apart. Instead, you set it up once so that the moment your income lands, it automatically splits itself and flows into each account in the right amount, before you can even really see it, let alone spend it. Your paycheck hits, and within a day, the bills money is in the bills account, the future money is in savings, the sinking funds are topped up, and what's left over, cleanly, honestly, is sitting in your spending account waiting for you. You did the thinking one time. After that, the system does it for you forever. This is that pay yourself first idea people are always repeating. Except now it isn't a slogan you have to remember. It's just plumbing that runs on its own. And here's the deepest layer of all, the one that truly ends the paycheck to paycheck feeling, even long before you're wealthy. Build a buffer. Get 1 month ahead. The goal is to slowly build up enough sitting in your accounts that the money you're spending this month is money you actually earned last month. So you're never living on income that hasn't fully arrived yet. Never spending right at the razor's edge of the next paycheck. When you're a full month ahead, a paycheck landing a few days late doesn't matter. One weirdly expensive week doesn't matter. The exact timing of when you get paid stops mattering entirely. You're always spending out of a calm, already full reserve instead of desperately catching each dollar as it flies in. That buffer is the whole difference between standing on solid ground and standing on a moving walkway, and it is the single most powerful anti-broke move there is. Now step back and notice what you've actually built here, because it's much bigger than a handful of accounts. You've closed the gap. Remember, the feeling of broke was never about the size of your money, it was the distance between the number you could see and the number you could trust. And this entire system exists to make those two numbers the same. The account you look at every day now holds only free money, so what you see is exactly what you can spend. The lie is gone, and when the number stops lying, the dread has nothing left to feed on. That's why the wealthy and the quietly financially calm at every income level so often run some version of this. It was never a secret investment or a special account only rich people are allowed to open. It's just mise en place for money, the boring prep work that turns a chaotic, panicked relationship with your finances into a calm one, where every dollar is already in its place, before the rush of the month even begins. Not because the number is always big, but because the number never lies to them anymore. And a number that tells you the truth, even a small one, is something you can finally stop being afraid of. Now look at what this becomes across two lives, because the difference compounds in a way that's genuinely hard to believe until you see it laid side by side. Two coworkers sit in the same office, same job, same paycheck, landing in their accounts on the same day each month. Call them by the way they run their money. One lives out of a single pile, the other runs a prep station. The pile person does what most of us do. Everything lands in one checking account, and life gets spent reaching into that one murky number. Early in the month, the balance looks big, so it feels like a rich week. A couple of dinners out, a few impulse buys, the number still looks healthy, so why not? Then the bills quietly hit, and the number drops, and by the third week there's that familiar tightening, the careful glances at the app, the little jolt of dread over every purchase. And then the car needs $400 of work, and it lands like a disaster, because there was never a pot set aside for it. It comes straight out of the same pile everything else lives in, and the whole month tips over into panic. Every single month is a small emotional roller coaster. Rich, fine, tight, broke, payday relief, and repeat. And the strangest part is that they aren't bad with money, and they don't earn too little. Their system just makes every month feel unstable. The station person earns the same paycheck, but they set up their accounts one time. The money lands and splits itself automatically. Bills separated, future money sent to savings, sinking funds topped up, and a clean, honest number waiting in the spending account. They built a 1 month buffer, so they're always spending last month's money. When they glance at the app in the checkout line, they feel nothing at all, because the number is simply true. When the exact same $400 car bill lands, they pull it from the car fund that's been filling all year, and barely even register it. No roller coaster, no dread, just a calm, quiet, almost boring competence humming along in the background of their life. Now run that forward 5 years. The pile person, after all that stress, has usually saved very little, because chaos leaks money out of every crack, and living in constant low-grade panic is expensive. The station person, spending the exact same income the whole time, has a full emergency fund, real savings, and, maybe most valuable of all, 5 years of not lying awake over money. Same salary, same job, opposite lives, and the only thing that ever separated them was where their dollars slept at night. So here's the whole thing distilled down into what to actually do. And you can start this week without changing a single thing about your income. Open one new account, just one to begin with. Most banks let you do it for free in the app, in about 5 minutes. Make it your spending account, route only your free money into it after your fixed bills are accounted for. And start living your day-to-day life out of that one honest number instead of the big lying one. That single move separating what you can truly spend from what's already promised to someone else will do more for the feeling of being broke than a raise ever would. Then, whenever you're ready, add the next account and the next and slowly build up the buffer until you're a full month ahead. You don't have to do it all at once. You just have to stop living from one pile. And be clear about what this is really for. Because it's easy to hear all of this and assume it's about restriction, about clamping down and denying yourself. It's the exact opposite. The entire reason you build the prep station is so that you can spend the free money freely, without the clench, without the guilt, without the dread. Because you finally know for certain that it's genuinely yours. This was never about spending less. It was about never again having to feel broke over money that was actually fine. So return to that checkout line one more time, the small purchase, the coffee, the phone charger, the reflexive glance down at the app before you tap, Only this time, the number you're looking at is your spending account, and every dollar in it is genuinely free. There's no hidden rent buried inside it, no forgotten bill waiting to ambush you, no murky pile of obligations you're trying to guess your way around. The number is finally telling you the plain, simple truth. And so you tap your card and you feel nothing. No clench, no quiet dread. Just the small, ordinary calm of someone who knows exactly where they stand, because their money is in its place. That is the entire trick. Not more money, not more willpower, just an honest number sitting in an account that only ever holds what's really yours, built by doing the boring prep before the rush. The wealthy didn't escape the feeling of broke by getting rich. Plenty of them felt it long before the money ever arrived, and plenty of rich people still feel it today. They escaped it by refusing to run their lives out of one lying account, by giving every dollar a home, separating the money that was never theirs to spend, and keeping a buffer so they were always standing on solid ground instead of the edge. It's boring. It's unglamorous. It will never trend. And it will quietly do more for your peace of mind than almost anything else you could ever do with money. So go open that first account, give your dollars a place to sleep, and let the number finally tell you the truth.